everyone, and welcome back to another video. So, I just got done reading book 1 and book 2 of the Kindred Curse Saga by Penn Cole, Spark of the Everflame and Glow of the Everflame. And guys, I just had to talk about it. So, if you have not read these, and you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to read these first and then come back to my video, because this is going to be a full spoiler-filled review. I have to talk about it. I cannot keep it in any longer. So, first off, let's discuss the world. Absolutely fantastic. Penn Cole has created a world that you can just get behind. It's not super complex. It's just really intriguing, and it's got certain rules and it's got certain traditions, and it's just, that's what it is. And basically the whole, not the whole premise, but a big part is the mortals versus the descended. Now, the descended are beings that are they're basically human, except they have super strong skin. So you can't cut their skin with any blade. It has to be a specific blade. And you can really only kill them, know for a fact that they're dead, with a substance called Godstone. Because whether you puncture them or slice them or anything, there's a toxin that gets into their bloodstream and then they die. But these descended heal quickly, they're quicker, and they have magic. Well, each realm, I'm calling it a realm, but basically, each area on the American continent, which is a circle, has specific powers. So the main one that we're in is called Lumos, and they are light and shadow. So you can either have light magic, or you can have shadow magic, or you can have both. Usually if you have both, it means you're stronger. But if you only have one, it also doesn't necessarily mean you're weak. You might be strong, but you're not as strong as maybe somebody with both magics. But in each different realm, each realm has a crown, and each different realm has its own magic. And then there's some realms that mortals are allowed in, and there's some realms that they're not. But the mortals that are in certain realms, they are treated basically like they're not worth anything. These descended rule over them. They don't care. So, you meet this girl, DM, at the beginning, and she is a healer. But she's also different than other mortals. So, all mortals have brown eyes. She has gray eyes and white hair. Now, the hair, you can have all kinds of different colors, but she's just an anomaly because she's got white hair and gray eyes. Now, you find out in the second book that she's actually half mortal, half descended. Really, you find out at the end of the first book, but you know for sure in the second one. And it's just, and we still haven't learned her heritage. I'm on book 3, and I think that's when I'm going to learn it. But you get little like shots in book 1 and book 2. So in book 1, you get this like old lady who calls her daughter of the forgotten. And then you get it again in the second book in a couple different instances closer to the end. So it's like, who the heck is forgotten? Who is the forgotten? Like, I need to know this. So I'm hoping I find out in book 3. But book 1 is mainly just a setup. So you're learning about the world, you're learning about DM, you learn about the rebels and what's going on with that. But then, like, there's also a love interest in the first one. And that is Henry, who has been DM's childhood friend for ever since she can remember. Well, they've then decided to take their relationship to the next level. But then her mother disappears. And so DM doesn't know what to think. She doesn't know if she's alive. She doesn't know where she's at. Nothing like that. So she's kind of like backed off from Henry a little bit. But you see that there is care for each other in it. But like not to the level that you would want, really. And DM's questioning it on like, really, because Henry proposes and she doesn't know what to say. Like, she at first is like, I don't want that. I don't want to be that. Especially when he proposes and instead of him saying, we can fight this war together, and blah, blah, blah. And then I think he says that, and then he's like, and once it's over, you can stay home and we can have kids and you can be a mother and I can do this. And she is just like, but that's not what I want. So she's not sure what she wants to do with Henry. So then, like, at the end, things escalate and whatever not, with her father, and we'll get into that. But she decides to take over duties at the palace from her mother. So her mother was the palace healer. But because she's gone and DM is afraid that her brother Teller will get kicked out of the Descended School, she takes on her mother's responsibilities at the palace. Well, that's when she meets Luther. And we love Luther, okay? Tall, dark, handsome, gray blue eyes is how he's described, and then he's got a scar like all down, and we learn about the scar in the second book and how he has that. But he's like suspicious of her, but then at the same time, like, he can't keep his hands off of her either or close to her. So you start getting that, like, oh my gosh, okay, this is the guy. And they have a heated kiss at the end. Like, oh my gosh, I love it. But, so you're starting to get a little bit of DM and Luther, okay, in the first book. Well then, in this, at the end of the first book, she gets in a fight with her father, yells, and I should probably back up real quick. So her mother, for the longest time, was making her take this herb or flower called flame root. Well, we find out that flame root stops allowing the Descended to access their magic. It's a repressor. So after her mother disappears and the old crone that was talking to her in the alleyway when she was overhearing her mother and Luther, even though she didn't know it was Luther at the time, told her to stop taking the flame root. So she decided to do that. Well, then like her dad was getting mad at her or whatever, and she's like, no, I'm fine, whatever. I haven't had any hallucinations. And that's what her mother would say. Like, you have hallucinations and this is helping you. When really her mother knew that she was half descended, and she was just dampening and repressing DM's power. So like, she eventually just threw it all in the sea. Well, then she's starting to get these hallucinations. She's getting a voice in her head and all kinds of other stuff. So like, her power starts to manifest, but not in a way where she can control it. But it does help her in certain situations. So then after she gets in a fight with her dad, because her temper is just gone through the roof, she runs out into the forest. Well, then something happens, and she's getting this feeling and sensation, and then she's looking into the water, I think it is, and there's a crown on top of her head, hovering there. Teller finds her, and she's like, I'm hallucinating, and he's just like, no, DM, you're the new queen of Luminos. And then Lily comes, Lily is Luther's sister. So she is the princess, and she goes to school with Teller, and her and Teller are friends. But I think they both like each other, but really, like, they're not supposed to, but they do. So Lily was coming over for dinner because DM invited her to come over, and she brought flowers. Well, then she sees DM with the crown, and she's just like, oh my gosh. So the second book, so now we get into the second book. Lily takes her to the cabin in the on palace grounds. But then she trusts her brother with everything that she has, and so she tells Luther about DM. So instead of Lily coming back with some supplies, it's Luther who actually shows up. So then you have that. So basically, DM is like scheming and fighting for her life, really, because there's a period, I guess, called the challenging. So she is an unchallenged queen right now. And I guess in descended tradition, when the crown gets passed, it goes to the strongest individual. Well, originally, everyone thought it would be Luther because he is a force to be reckoned with. But it went to DM. So she doesn't have a house. There's 20 houses in Luminos. So she decides to make a bargain with House Corbius, which is Luther's house, to hopefully not get challenged when that day comes in the arena. So she's trying to figure out who she can trust. She does find her inner circle and her found family as the book goes on. And they're doing everything that they can to help her. They're trying to get her to be able to use and control her magic. They're trying to help her through everything, but she's also got, like, in the back of her head at the time too, like, I'm going to destroy these people. Like, I'm queen, I'm going to do everything I can to win the challenge so I can stay queen, so then I can destroy these people and I can help the mortals. Because ultimately, she just wants to help. But as the days go on, she learns that there's actually decent descended. And there's some descended that really, like, they don't know what's going on in Mortal City and for the mortals. So she's, like, showing them what's going on, and they are like, we'll fix it, we'll help you fix it, all of that stuff. But then there's others who just want her dead because they want the mortals gone, they want to have power and all this stuff. So it's and even in House Corbius is that as well. Not like some of the other houses, but still, they all live in the palace, so they don't want to give that up. So if DM loses, then they'd be kicked out of the palace, potentially, if Luther weren't to get the crown, okay? So, through all of this, there is tension, and good tension, between her and Luther, and she doesn't know how she feels about Luther. She knows that there's something there, but she's also holding on to Henry. But Henry finds out that she's queen and a descended, even though she's half descended. And he, like, basically spits in her face. So she's, like, begging him. And then she's like, we can get married and you can be my king. And then he's like, oh, yeah. So he's seeing power, and king is thrown, and that is the only reason why, like, he's not trying to kill her. So Henry doesn't love her. And I think she realizes that as the book goes on, because at the end of book 2, she's made a decision. She knows which one she's picking. And Luther just literally, without saying that he loves her, tells her that in a scene in the book, and I just die, okay? I mean, my goodness, I just die. But she still doesn't know. Like, she's like, she feels things for him, and she gets nervous, and it's such a slow burn, it's not even funny. In the second one, and I just, oh my gosh, I just literally die. And so they don't kiss or anything until close to the end. And then she makes a decision. And, like, basically, if you want to know, because it is spoiler, she chooses Luther over Henry, thank gosh. Because if she would have chose Henry, I probably would not have been able to finish the book. Because no to Henry. He has not been there for her. All he cares about is getting rid of the descended. And he's not seeing things in, like, gray. He's seeing it in black and white. Like, if you're mortal, then you're on my side. If you're descended, then you're on their side, and I will kill you, kind of thing. So he doesn't care. And especially because, like, he's not even there for her challenging day. He sends her a note and just says, good luck. We're on the same side. No, you're not, dude. No, you're not. Her side is trying to keep everybody safe and change the way things are going. Your side is violence, and that's not what she wants. So she ends up winning her challenging, and here's what's great. So every house challenges her. And even Luther challenges her, and he did it not to betray her, but she also let it slip that she made a bonded bargain with his dad, Remus. So if anybody from House Corbius were to challenge her, then he would lose his magic. So Luther was like, well, Daddy, you're not gonna have your magic anymore. They have a strained relationship, and you learn that at the end of book 2. And I'm not going to spoil that one for you guys because it's really interesting, especially Luther's background. That's really interesting too, but I won't spoil that one. So she, though, when Luther, like, stands up and says that he's challenging her, who's the strongest, and technically she's supposed to pick the strongest, she is just like, was any of it real? You betrayed me, all this stuff, which really, come to find after they talked, that he was doing it because he's like, I know you're not able to use your magic right now. I'll do it all for us. He was basically sacrificing himself for her. Like, he was going to put on a show and then kill himself to win the challenging. But she decided to pick a guy from a lesser house because she made a bargain with Remus to let her choose. And she picked this guy from a lesser house that she watched murder a woman and her child. And it was his child too, but it was because the child was half mortal. So she tried everything that she could to help. But in the end, the child and the mother died. So she's getting her revenge for them on this guy. So basically, you know, she's able to fend him off a little bit. Still not able to use her magic except for shielding. But then she, like, bonks her head. And a vision plays out. And then that's when you get the first of book 2 saying, "You are now ready, daughter of the Forgotten." And so then she has full range of her magic. She can do anything and everything with it. So basically she's like, "Do you yield?" And the guy says yes. And she shows mercy, and she tells it to the crowd, and the crowd is like, boo, whatever. So she's turning around to get to Luther, and the guy pulls a knife on her, but then he just disappears. She, like, vaporized him. So it's crazy. She put on a show for sure with her magic and put fear in all of these people who were trying to backstab her and try to get to the crown and all that stuff. So the best part, though, and it makes me want to know more about her heritage, is they get to this island in the center of Amerian, and it's only for the crowns. Nobody else is allowed to go on it. So they do rituals there. And when a new crown dies and a new crown is confirmed, all 9 have to be there and do this blood ritual. And they put it on this stone called the Heart Stone to help with their magic or something or other. Well, when it's her turn to drop blood onto the stone, her blood cracks the stone because there's, like, lightning that comes down or something or other. And the Queen of Umbros, who we find out was the crone that she talked to at the beginning of Spark of the Everflame, she knows something about DM. So she's, like, giving this girl, like, "I know who you are, girlfriend, and I can't wait to see what you do." And she helps this old crown. And he says the same thing under his breath. Good luck, daughter of the Forgotten. So he knows by just looking at her. And she's like, what? But she doesn't get to ask him to elaborate because the crowns are becoming impatient. They want to do the ritual. Well, then the Guardians, they planted bombs on this island because their mission was to kill as many crowns as possible, try to destroy the Heartstone, which they can't. And they don't know that it was DM's blood that cracked it. They thought it was the bombs, even though it wasn't. And that's when we find out that DM's mother has been there for 8 months. And she sees that DM is the new Luminous crown. So she runs to tell her to run at the end of book 2. Because you get, like, at the end of book 1, you get a chapter of DM's mother. And in book 2, you get that as well. It's the epilogue. And then you get a bonus chapter in book 2, and it's fantastic. But I am just in the beginning of the 3rd book, and I'm super stoked for it. I really hope I finish it this week. But I highly suggest that you pick it up if you have not yet. If you like good world building, great like backstory mystery, fantastic friendship, and a slow burn that will literally kill you, then you have to pick this up. It's an absolute fantastic series so far. I have given both books 5 stars, so I cannot say any more than go read it if you have not. If you have read it, let me know in the comments down below what you thought, or do you feel the same way as I do, or did it not really hit for you? I'd love to know. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and be good people.
When you feel it's hopeless, when you think that you lost, oh, I will take your hand and we'll rise up from the dust.